Hello everyone and welcome back to Mama Mumbles' discount den of disappointment in Fallout 76. I paid a visit to the mole miner she has trapped in her basement in the hopes that maybe that's the secret trick to getting her to cough up something good that I can do a weapon spotlight video on. I'm kidding, of course. I know it's all just random, but hey, I guess you never know. Remember, if you like videos like this and want to see more Fallout 76 content, I publish multiple videos every week on the channel, so go ahead and get subscribed. If you don't like videos like this and don't want to see more Fallout 76 content, well, then I guess don't do that. Whatever makes you happy. We're going to spend 1,000 Scrip on a mix of 2- and 3-star weapons. Let's see what the mole miner everybody loves to hate has for us today. Alright, our first 3-star roll is a Mutant Slayer's hunting rifle with bashing damage and VATS critical meter filling 15% faster. So, Mutant Slayers is a very situational effect, and of those situational effects, it's one of the more desirable ones, because it's predictable. We know now that in daily ops, we're going to be able to see what we're going to be facing, so effects like Mutant Slayers are more useful than they once were. Unfortunately, a hunting rifle is probably not what you want to go into a daily op with. It doesn't have very high DPS, it's slow to fire, it's slow to reload, so not the ideal choice, but yeah, I guess you could do it. Bashing damage isn't going to do anything for us in there, and VATS critical meter filling 15% faster. Well, that's nice, unless you have the invisible ones where you really can't use VATS. So I've said in other videos, I wish they would change the bashing effect to bashing speed being increased by 40%. I think that would be really useful in daily ops, but extra damage from bashing, when your bashing damage is already next to nothing, 40% more of nothing is still nothing. So it doesn't really do anything for anybody. Bashing speed would be more useful, especially if maybe there was a stagger chance added to that. Let's see what else we can get. And okay, well, this one's a little more interesting. We've got a bloodied Gatling plasma with VATS critical shots doing more damage and 250 DR while reloading. So bloodied is still king of the hill when it comes to legendary effects. It's not as powerful as it once was, so while it's king of the hill, that hill isn't quite as high as it used to be. But it's still really good. So definitely always good to get bloodied on a weapon. 250 damage resistance while reloading on a Gatling plasma is also a really good effect because they're a very slow reload. Even with some of the perks that you use, they're still pretty slow, and honestly, sometimes those perks, in my experience, are pretty hit or miss as to whether they even work. Sometimes the reload's real quick, sometimes it takes forever. You just don't really know. So both of those are great effects to have on this. VATS critical shots doing more damage. That's an effect I can take or leave on a heavy weapon. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, this is a little more interesting. We've got an instigating Harpoon gun with VATS hit chance and 50 damage resistance while aiming. Now, this is an interesting one for a heavy gunner. With a scope on here and, some mods and stuff, this becomes sort of a sniper rifle for a heavy gunner. The instigating effect is excellent for that, doing double damage if the target is full health. Unfortunately, that's been nerfed, so it's not nearly as effective as it once was, but it's still pretty good. The increased VATS hit chance, that's also interesting on this. If you can manage to do a heavy gunner that has a little bit of AP, you could really make some use out of that. Or you can take advantage of the 50 damage resistance while aiming and use a scope. So it's not a quiet weapon, it's not a stealthy weapon, so a little extra DR while you're aiming it isn't a bad thing because things are probably going to be shooting at you. So this could be an interesting one to do a video on with my heavy gunner. Let's take a look at what's next. We've got a Stalkers single action revolver with VATS hit chance and +1 agility. Well, we got a good one before, and I guess we pay for that now. So Stalkers, I am just not a fan of the Stalkers effect. The whole idea of it is that if you're not in combat, you can get a guaranteed VATS hit at the cost of 50% of your AP. I don't see the point of that. With a weapon like this, as soon as you fire it, you're going to be detected because it's not silent. We've got VAT's hit chance as a secondary effect, and I promise you that is more effective than Stalkers, so that's the whole thing here, is 33% VAT's hit chance is much better than Stalkers. Let's move on. Okay, this one's kind of interesting too. An anti-armor Gatling gun with limb damage and 90% reduced weight. So the advantage to a weapon like this for a heavy gunner is, number one, with reduced weight, it doesn't weigh us down very much so we can carry it. That's good. Number two, anti-armor is definitely a great all-around effect. Limb damage is kind of take it or leave it. But the big advantage to a Gatling gun for a heavy gunner is it shoots 5mm, which is incredibly common ammo, and it's incredibly cheap ammo to produce, and it shoots it slowly. Normally, if you're a heavy gunner, you want high DPS, but from time to time when you're just doing kind of basic events or just some simple farming, you want something like that that doesn't chew up all your ammo, so that's not a bad thing. And next up, we've got a Mutants lever action rifle with bashing damage and extra perception. So Mutants is a net positive legendary effect. It's not the greatest of the damage dealing legendary effects, but it does give us positive damage overall. So it's not a bad thing to have. Bashing damage, like we talked about earlier, is completely and utterly pointless. And extra perception, well, that never hurt anybody, especially not a rifleman, who is probably using VATs a little more than the average player. So not a bad roll, not a great roll. Let's try a 2-star and see what we get. A Junkie's black powder pistol with bashing damage. So Junkie's still a very useful effect, still a very powerful legendary effect. Unfortunately, black powder weapons just leave a lot to be desired. They're not very good, and they're just too slow. They're not stealthy. They don't really fit the mold for anything, so not a great roll here. Bashing damage again, totally pointless and useless in every way. Let's move on. All right, Mama Mumbles, give us something good. That is not something good. A Ghoulslayer's Broadsider with 10% damage while aiming. So, yeah. We've talked about explosive weapons before in these videos, and I just don't love the Broadsider. It doesn't seem to do what it's supposed to do. You've got a huge damage number, but you hit things with it and they don't die. Or you hit things with it and it's broken in 10 or 15 shots. So sadly, while these weapons could be a lot of fun to play with, they just aren't because they break constantly. So if they could get something a little bit under control with the damage, or at least help us figure out how to do damage, that would be interesting, but they've got to be more durable. And now we've got a Zealot's combat shotgun with damage to scorched and 25% faster fire rate. So Zealots is a situational effect. Not the best of the situational effects. Right now, troubleshooters and mutant slayers are going to be ideal because you can predict when you're going to need those in daily ops. Zealots, you can also predict to a point for Scorched Earth, which is useful and helpful. 25% faster fire rate on this weapon. If you put the automatic receiver on it, that's also useful. So maybe somebody could make some use out of this if they've got a well-built shotgunner character. It's probably not an ideal drop, but it's probably also not the absolute worst thing in the world to get. So yeah, okay. I'll take it, I guess. Let's move on. And another one. Another Broadsider. This is like 2 weapon videos in a row, 2 Scrip videos in a row with double Broadsiders. Mama Mumbles, I went and visited your prisoner. What more can you possibly want from me? So let's talk about it. Mutants, not bad. At 10% more damage if you're mutated. So little extra damage never hurt anybody. 25% faster fire rate. That could be useful if you've got the multi-shot canister mod on this. But sadly, again, the Broadsider just, it's damage challenged and it breaks too fast. All right, and now we've got a Berserker's crossbow with VAT's critical shots doing extra damage. So Yeah, so this isn't actually bad. If you are a Berserker build, then weapons like the crossbow are probably going to be a little more appealing for you. They're lightweight, so you don't have armor with deep pockets, you don't have power armor for extra strength or calibrated shocks, so you don't have a lot of room to carry stuff around. So a lightweight weapon is not a bad thing. Something like this that gives you the Berserker's effect for not wearing armor and extra VATS critical shot damage is kind of useful. Is the Berserker, or is the crossbow rather, the best weapon to use? Well, that's probably debatable, but it could be worth playing around with. So, not the worst weapon in the world. I can definitely see where someone would use this in their build. So, not a bad drop here. Let's move on and see if we get anything else. We'll do another 2-star, and this one's a Mutants Gatling Laser with VATS critical shots doing more damage. So, here again, Mutants effect, it's a net positive. Is it amazing damage? No, but it is positive damage. Everybody's mutated. By the time you hit level 50, if you don't have a bunch of mutations, well, you're doing that on purpose. So that's fine, you do you. I have a character like that too. But for the most part, everybody's mutated. So something like this is basically just a flat, this weapon does more damage. The VATS thing, but let's see what we get on our last 3-star roll. A Mutant's Pipe bolt action pistol. Damage increased by 10% if we're mutated, VATS critical shots doing more damage, and 250 damage resistance while reloading. So, just like the last one, again, Mutants, net positive effect. We don't need to drill down on that anymore. VATS critical shots doing more damage. Well, that's not a bad thing on a pistol, where you're more likely to be a VATS critical focused build. And damage resistance while reloading on a weapon like this that is fairly slow to reload is a good thing. I believe you can still double dip if you put a rifle stock on this thing and get rifleman and pistol perks on it. So you'll have diminishing returns on that following the One Wasteland damage changes, but you can still get a little something extra out of it. So for the right person, this could actually be a pretty cool weapon. It's definitely not one for me, but I could imagine somebody being happy with this out there. And that will bring this visit to Mama Mumbles to a close. So we got a couple of good things today. Bloodied Gatling Plasma, Instigating Harpoon Gun. So a couple of really interesting things there. One that we know is great and one that could just be really interesting with the Harpoon Gun. But, that's how visits to Mama Mumbles go. You never really know what you're going to get. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But them's the breaks when you're gambling in Fallout 76. So with that, we're going to bring this one to a close. As always, if you enjoyed this, if you want to see more, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe. Be sure to come back next time. And until then, I'm Fisty McRib.